Professor Botchway, first of all, we would want to know, is there any link between colonialism and this kind of frustration that we are experiencing in the house tonight? Is there any link like that?
Thank you very much. I would like to applaud you for organizing this gathering. It's very laudable and noble, and I think I will pray that you are able to sustain it. And I'd like to say good evening to all of us here. Yes, there is an intricate relationship between colonialism and what is happening in the post-colonial moment, which is not post-colonial, because when you say post-colonial, it means after the colonial. What we are experiencing today is not the post-colonial period, it is the neo-colonial period. Neo-colonial meaning the new colonial. We are not an independent nation. Africa has never been an independent nation after the Berlin Conference. We have been colonized and we are still under colonialism. The proclamation that was made was just a proclamation. You have a flag, you have an anthem, you have a president and prime minister, but someone is out there who is pulling the strings. Basically, what you are having is the 4-year or whatever period to elect a new leader who continues to listen to certain powers outside your borders.
Prof, I wouldn't want to cut you, but you just said that someone is out there pulling the strings, but who is this someone? Is it me, Kwepidazo, or is it us? Or is it a bartender? Who is pulling these strings? I'm interested to know.
Fundamentally, it is the same colonial master, the same colonial entity that fundamentally came from Europe. Now, the United States of America joined it. Once upon a time, the United States of America was a colony of Britain, but it gained its independence and decided to be truly independent and joined the cousins in Europe, and they started to colonize other people. Now, they are the new colonial entities. Okay. China has joined it. You should understand it. That's why it is neocolonialism. And neocolonialism fundamentally is remote-controlled colonialism. The governor is not here. You don't have a governor staying in Cape Coast Castle, or Mina Castle, or Christianborg Castle. The governor is faceless, but he is pulling your economics. Fundamentally, human beings need material sustenance before even spiritual sustenance. Before you can pray, you must be fed. You must be nourished before even you can pray. And so if your material resources are in the hands of someone, you'll forever be a slave. And the way to control your destiny is fundamentally to be in charge of your resources and property. And what do I mean by resources and property? Property is not your car, property is not your money, property is not your house. Property fundamentally is your land and what is in your land, which means your gold, your bauxite, your minerals, your oils and everything. Now look at Africa. Which African country out of the 50-something odd economies is in charge of its property? It is the same colonialism. So it's neocolonialism. And when people are hungry, most of the time they become dishonest.
True.
Because they have to survive. And that is where the dishonesty and the corruption comes in.
Thank you so much, Professor Botchway. So I would want to move to... Yes, you can give it up for Professor Botchway. Come on, you can do better. So, Courage Nobi, what is your take on neocolonialism and this frustration that we just experienced in the house?
Right. Thank you very much, Brother K. Danso and Prof. and our sister. It's a pleasure to be up here with you. And I thank you all for joining us as well. Without the audience, there's nothing for us to do.
Exactly.
I think Prof's background is very lucid, and it sets the stage for us to go forward. And everything he said is true. I don't contest any of them. These are factual facts of history. But the point is, how conscious is the rest of the society, outside of the academic walls of Prof, which is where the real work is. Which is where the real revolution should take place. So I'll take from where Prof started off and say that there are global structures or institutions, global frameworks within which we have been plunged upon independence. All right? For example, the British has a governance system that evolved from their culture and their history. The Americans have a governance system that evolved from their culture and history. The French have a governance system that evolved from their culture and history, same as Germany. The Chinese have a governance system that evolved from their culture and history. Which African country has a governance system that evolved from its culture and history?
Any idea? Swaziland.
Great, that's true. Swaziland has something that marries the traditional system with the official system. So that if you're an MP in Swaziland, you need to go back to your people, sit there where the chief is in charge to discuss what you're doing in parliament on their behalf. All right? That aside, there is no other. What happened to Africa is what I call the big bang of democracy. Now, democracy is a function of choice. Choice is a function of information and knowledge. So, upon independence, 6 million Ghanaians, less than 20% with education. And then we said that this same population should vote, one man, one vote, to determine who comes to lead them. There's a problem right there. Uneducated people, uninformed people who have been asked to make the critical choice as to who leads them. Invariably, who makes the decisions as to how to exploit their resources and their land, as Prof made reference to.
True.
So that created a big problem. Now, instead of going through that evolutionary process to have a governance system that is unique to Africa, we didn't do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Courage Nobi. I'm going to come back to you, and then maybe you can share this governance system of Africa that you're talking about, because what I see is that we have the political parties doing their thing, and we also have the chieftaincies. We have the chiefs also, but how can we blend this to make it more effective and also to curb corruption? But before that, I would like to go to our sister Winnifred. Winnie, are you experiencing this neocolonialism as a strong black woman in 2021 or for the past years? Do you experience the neocolonialism happening?
Looking at what Prof said and what Courage said as well, I believe this is happening, taking it from a strong woman's point of view. We are still being colonized in all aspects. Let me a little into education, since I'm a teacher. So in the classroom, you are expected to teach the students in English, but our primary languages are so many. There's a Chi, there's a Ga, I'm Kobo for instance.
Yeah, even now we are speaking English, right?
Yes. So you have a student, I teach in a fancy school, so a teacher goes like, Madam Pocho Kamfante. The person doesn't get it. You understand? So they have taken over, they have assimilated everything, they are in charge. It has to be English or nothing else. We are not on our own.
Yeah.
That is what
Thank you so much, Winnie. The problem with this local language is I realized that suppose we want to use Chi or Fancy or Ga or something like that. And that is why I see that I think that confusion would always come around, and maybe probably leads back to maybe tribalism or something like that, which might also be linked to colonialism in a way, because I have said they exploited the tribes a lot, and that could also be it. But maybe some of you in the audience could have a solution when it comes to the language, yeah? And as a conversation, which is a say, blending and as a say. Courage, you have something to say?
Yeah, so, you know, the issues coming up are very huge, and sometimes you wish we had started this discussion from like 6 p.m.
True.
You know, because these are heavy conversations. Now, the language issue. These imaginary lines didn't exist until the white man came. We traded across with them and all of that. But today, we talk about them as though they are aliens. That is the problem. When you turn your diversity into a problem, then you have a big problem. So this language thing, we have diverse languages. But should it be possible to reach a compromise in terms of the usage at various levels and strata of society. No. So you go to East Africa, there are many other languages, but they said, oh, the dominant one is Swahili. So let us give that some official status, because it can help us reach about 6 countries. So that is done, and it's working there. So let's just look at our Ghana. All right, it doesn't mean that you cannot use other languages, but for functional official purposes, let us adopt this until we can come out of our petty emotional feelings to now make decisions on strategic basis. Then we'll continue to have a problem that can never be solved.
Thank you so much, Courage Nobi. So, Prof, I would want to go back to keeping our properties. We were talking about that because you said that the land, what we have in the land, that is our property. So how do we keep it, and how do we make it beneficial for the ordinary man or for the masses? How can we do that? Do you have any idea?
Yes, fundamentally.
Can you please sit down? I like your ideas, but give me some second, yeah?
Fundamentally, I think that once the understanding that this land does not belong even to me, to us now, it is, we are holding it in trust for posterity, then it means that we must find a way to, and of course we have a political system that makes it difficult because we have parties, and all parties do have, each party has its own interest. So if you look at certain societies, they have been able to, at a point in time, advance the national interest over partisan interest, where they decide that even though we belong to different parties, let's put our country first, and the resources should be protected, which means that a certain kind of economic order must be placed in place. He may maybe have a different opinion, but to have that control, you must in a way follow a socialist model or a socialist economic model. Because when you follow a capitalist economic model, you are basically saying that the strongest in terms of economic strength must be in charge of things, which means the weak will not have anything. But when you have a socialist model, you basically have a society that says that we're creating a welfare state. And that means that we must own the property that we have collectively. We must work and share whatever we produce, not say equally, but equitably, so that we will all be fine. I was speaking to my mother the other time. I said, Mom, why is it that, you go on the street, you have people selling PK, hacks, and other things, and go to Sweden, go to Norway, go to other places, do you find young people selling PK and hacks on the streets? But they are human beings. Why? Because the society has a way of taking care of the weak and those who are not even working. At the end of the day, they get something. But we are all human beings. So it is the socialist model that must be pursued. And the socialist model says that the nation must be in charge of its resources. We have oil. Why is it that we cannot, even if we don't have the technology and the machines, why is it that we cannot employ someone to come and drill, and at the end of the day we pay that person off, instead of giving the oil or the resources to that person? Employ that person to drill it for you and pay the person off. But if we decide to go the capitalist way, then it means that that person has capital. You give it to that person, do whatever you want with it. But if it's a socialist, then the state basically takes care of the resources and the property. We own it collectively and we share it.
Thank you so much, Professor Botchway. Thank you so much. So, I think the biggest worry is corruption. How do we curb corruption? Not just about the leaders, because we are corrupted. Corrupted, but how can we curb corruption from the young ones to the adults,
I think this issue of socialism and capitalism, probably at independence, we had the opportunity to make a choice. I think in our present circumstances, the focus should be on creating indigenous capital, because you are already in the capitalist establishment. You need to compete, and to compete, you need a capital. So here is Brother Forsyth, right? If you can make a bold decision and say that this man is very, very intelligent when it comes to business, and so let's empower him as a rivalry to the Chinese businessman coming in, so that we create him as an indigenous capital owning person, right? Then we can be competing competitively to be able to now take control once we built indigenous capital, to now say, okay, now we want to have control over this. And I think even in Russia, it's been practiced. The Chinese closed in, built indigenous capital, and then say, now come and let's compete. So I think we can be more pragmatic going forward from this point. But on the issue of corruption, when I was in JHS, there were some subjects that I had no competition. Social studies was one of them. We're writing BEC, and the teacher who was invigilating comes to my desk to come and check my answers, to tell my colleagues. I covered my answers. After the paper, I was lambasted, left back, right center. What I was seeing there was a teacher who was training my colleagues and I to be corrupt. So you cheat your way out through BEC, you cheat your way out through WASI, you cheat your way out at the university. So you get to university, it becomes more advanced. Ladies are sleeping with lecturers for grades and other things. You come out, you now go sleep with people for employment, for national service placement. All right? So the best way to curb corruption is to fix education. Because education is the avenue through which you engineer people for your society.
Thank you so much. Fix education. Thank you so much, Courage Nobi. Miss Winnie, your last words, and then
so
we can wrap it up.
Would really learn very well by what they see. So from the example Courage gave, it happens everywhere. At home, somebody comes to, let's start from lying or being dishonest. So somebody comes to look for daddy, daddy tells you, tell the person I'm not in. You've already taught the child how to lie, you understand? And the child has to also pass by all means. This is what you tell your child. And your child finds means to pass through the JHS, SHS, and then finally the university, and then does other things to, do well in the society, to be recognized. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Miss Winnie. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being patient and having this